Well, Belgium recently said that they weren't going to cut funding to the UNRWA.
It's been interesting to see that, because UNRWA has, the thing about the United Nations is that Western countries really dominate it, in the sense that they wrote the rules back in the 1940s when the United Nations was really being set up. But they're also blocking so much of the positive change and the potential force that the United Nations could have as being a democratizing force in not only the Middle East, but around the world. When you look at countries that actually use their veto power, or even have veto power, or vote against the majority in the UN, it's very often a case, if you look at the map, it's like West versus the rest. It's Western Europe, North America, Japan, and maybe a couple other countries that are voting one way and the rest of the world another. And we're seeing that with UNRWA, right? So, countries like the United States and many other Western European countries immediately rushed to pull out funding from UNRWA after some rather dodgy reporting suggesting that there were all sorts of UNRWA employees who were actually moonlighting for Hamas. But we have to remember that UNRWA is one of the biggest employers in Gaza. I believe it employs tens of thousands of people there. Hamas was the elected government in Gaza. It's a very large political body. It handles all sorts of social issues there, as well as being a military wing. So it's completely unsurprising that some people working for UNRWA might have had some ties to Hamas. In fact, it would have been astonishing if that wasn't the case. And yet even then, these accusations are starting to fall apart here. And fortunately, some Western European nations didn't go along with the memo that they got from the United States to say cut funding. Belgium was one of them. Spain actually is an interesting case. Spain has decided to increase funding to UNRWA right now, which is pretty interesting given what its peers are doing. So perhaps we're seeing a little bit of a crack in the sort of united front that we're used to seeing in Western Europe, where there's just so much violence and so much bloodshed that certain governments are thinking that we can't really be seen to stand and support this. In the United States, of course, President Biden, his approval ratings are tanking, especially among young people and especially among Muslim Americans, which are two groups he probably really needs to have come out in support for him if he wants to win the election in 2024. Muslim Americans make up a large percentage of the overall population of Michigan, one of the key battleground states, which Trump won in 2016 and Biden took back from him in 2020. If Trump wins Michigan in 2024, it's going to be difficult to see how Biden can retain the presidency. So this question about what's happening in Palestine right now is really having reverberations throughout the world, whether it's in Western Europe or the United States.